All right. I'd like to say good evening to everyone and welcome here to the board meeting here at Dijon Middle School. And we are about to go into closed session. And then from closed session, we'll be back into open session. But before we do, we are here to, we are about to start closed session. But before we do, the board is here to receive public comment on any closed section item that is agendized. The board would then adjourn to closed session and reconvene back in open session at 6:30 p.m. If you are attending the meeting in person at Dijon and you wish to make a public comment now on a closed session item, you will need to submit an orange request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak. If you're participating by Zoom, you will need to raise your hand, and by clicking on the appropriate icon in the Zoom app or by pressing *9 or accessing the meeting by phone. There's no yielding a time to another speaker, and there is no substitution of speaker permitted. So if you going to speak, you go ahead and fill out one of the orange cards, the comment cards now. If you are here in the audience and you are in a Zoom attending by phone, please get in line to speak by raising your hand. To access translation of the agenda, click on the top of the web page using the word English for translation into multiple languages. Many interpretation services are available by Zoom by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. So this evening, according to the code of 549-7-7, so tonight we look at public employee evaluation, public employee discipline, dismissal and release, complaint, conference with labor negotiation, and then we will adjourn closed session and reconvene back into open session. And so at this time, are there any comments for closed session?
Yes, we have two public comment.
Okay.
Can I ask Mr. Mark Moran to come up to the podium and Mr. Mark Mituit?
Where's the timer? Okay. Good afternoon. I realize I don't come to public comment very often. When I do, I'm usually angry. And so I apologize for the tone I often bring. I recognize the sacrifice you make as trustees of time and maybe the abuse you sometimes receive. I came to a revelation recently when I received an email from the district labor relations person, Contra, that showed me, that was full of misinformation and inaccuracies, that made me realize that you as trustees of the school board are not always getting perhaps accurate and complete information about what's going on. And that's what caused me to come to this realization. I know I have only 2 minutes. I did send each of you an email. I hope you will take time to look for it. I sent it today about 3:30 with a lot of more detail. But there's a couple points I want to make, simple points. First of all, 3 years ago, I don't believe any of you were trustees. 3 years ago, this district faced a financial crisis. Congratulations to trustee Dimitri Gonzalez-Hoy and trustee Reckler on their election wins. Trustee Gonzalez-Hoy is well aware of the financial crisis that occurred 3 years ago. The district was $50 million in arrears in surprise. At that time, the district was transparent with the union, and we worked with them. We convinced our members it was necessary to accept concessions. I'm the same person I was then. And right now, the district is not being honest with you, with the community, and with our members. The district has the ability to pay a competitive wage. We are not able to fill our positions because we're not paying a wage that's competitive with the area. The money is there. It's not easy. I never said it was easy. 3 years ago, I said it wasn't there. Now it is. Finally, I ask you to direct the district to accept the mediator's date, December 13th, rather than delaying further. Thank you.
President Christian, Superintendent Hurst, my name is Mark Mitchell, and board members, my name is Mark Mitchell. I'm the Executive Director of the United Teachers of Richmond. And I just wanted to put a bug in each of your ears that the district and UTR have an opportunity to solve the bargaining impasse on December 13th, next Tuesday. The state appointed mediator has given us that date, that he's available, the union's available. We really want to urge you to direct your staff to meet with us, and so that we can conduct the mediation that the district administrators have said is the point of you all declaring impasse on the educators. If that's the truth, we have a date, we have a mediator. Let's get this done for the students and educators of this community. I think delaying any further is going to inflame emotions unnecessarily, when perhaps we have an opportunity to resolve this before the holidays. If we are not able to do that because the district administrators refuse to agree to meet with us, it's not going to be well taken by the educators, and I don't think it serves you or the students of this district if we don't move on this opportunity to meet. The district declared impasse unilaterally on the teachers on November 17th. It's December 7th, and we still don't have an agreement from the district to meet with us and the mediator that's been appointed by the state, despite the fact that the state mediator has given us 2 dates of availability before the holiday break. We really want to urge you, I want to urge you as the staff person working with these educators that are just giving their all every day for their students and their communities, that you instruct your administrators to do the same and to show up and work with us on December 13th to reach an agreement that respects the contribution of the educators and respects the right of West Contra Costa students to have a certificated permanent educator in every classroom. Thank you.
That concludes our public comment.
All right. All right, thank you. And now we're about to go into closed session, and we will be back shortly, and we'll see everybody back then.
I'll be here.
Good evening, ladies and gentlemen. We are still in closed session, so we will start at 7:15. Sorry for the inconvenience. Thank you. The board meeting here at the John Middle School. We just came from closed session. And now we will proceed with the directions. To access translation of the agenda, click on the top of the web page using the word English for translation into multiple languages. Meeting interpretation service are available in the Zoom by clicking on the globe icon at the bottom of the screen. Due to the ongoing COVID-19 crisis, the manner in which the Board of Education meetings are conducted has changed. Thank you in advance for your understanding and cooperation as we experiment with new ways to conduct the people business while allowing for the maximum participation and adhering to our values of respect and safety for the community. We have changed public comment format, which now occurs at the beginning of the meeting. Public comment will last for no more than 1 hour and include any agendized and non-agendized items. The time allotted for each speaker is 2 minutes. We are about to start public comment. So if you are adhering to the meeting in person, you will need to submit an orange request to address the board form to indicate your desire to speak on any agenda item. Please finish up, and if you need to turn in the orange card to staff, please do so. If participating by Zoom, you will need to raise your hand by clicking on the appropriate icon of the Zoom app by pressing *9. Accessing the meeting by phone, there is no yielding of time, nor is substitution of speaker permitted. Please raise your hand if in the Zoom. Due to the Brown Act, board members cannot discuss items that are not on the agenda and do not usually respond to items presented in public comment. And at this time, we are going to go through the procedures with the Pledge of Allegiance, and then land acknowledgement, and then we go to roll call. And I'll lead us off with the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
We recognize that we are presently in the lands of the Chochenyo, Muwekma, Karkan, Ohlone peoples and acknowledge them as the first inhabitants of the land we currently occupy. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And now we'll go to the roll call. Dr. Hurst,
Thank you, sir. President Christian,
present.
Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Good evening, President.
Trustee Reckler,
Good evening, I'm present.
Trustee Phillips,
Here.
Trustee Smith Folds.
Good evening, everyone. Can you hear me?
Barely. Can we turn up the volume? Try it again, ma'am.
Good evening, everyone. Present.
That's better. Thank you. Trustee Miles,
Miles present.
Trustee Sampagna,
Present.
all present and accounted for.
All right, thank you, Dr. Hurst. And now we'll have a report out from closed session.
The board met in closed session regarding a complaint concerning district personnel appeal and student ID number 338841 pursuant to Board Policy and Administrative Regulation 1312.1. The board adopted a motion, denied the appeal by a vote of 3-2, with board members, trustee Reckler, trustee Gonzalez Hoy, and trustee Phillips voting in favor of the motion, and board members, trustee Smith Folds and President Christian voting against the motion. Thank you.
All right. Thank you, Dr. Hurst. And now we're moving on to public comment area. And do we have public comment on the in-house?
Yes, we have 6 public comments.
Okay, we,
Gabriela Micheletti,
Hello, Superintendent and trustees. Respectfully, I am baffled. As educators, we are not asking for much. There are 135 open positions on EdJoin. That's a lot of students without teachers, counselors, psychologists, speech therapists, and librarians. And you're playing games you cannot win. Even if you were to succeed at lowballing educators with your offer, you will lose more teachers if you do this. We are surrounded by higher paying districts offering $10K to come work for them. That is a life-changing amount for the majority of teachers in this district. And teachers here are exhausted of the disrespect. It's disrespectful to your educators, to the students you are meant to support, and to the community at large. I implore you not to keep this going. We as educators will do what we need to do to ensure livable wages and that the students in this district have a certificated teacher every year, every subject. That is the least students deserve, the very least. Are you out here telling admin it'll be a long strike? You guys are really going to force kids out of the classroom and lose your funds for more days for a long strike? Is that really what you want to do? I know a population of people that is used to working long, extra, unpaid hours and are just looking for enough money to live in this community and afford groceries is not the group I would want to be threatening with a long strike. Ask yourselves what you put yourselves in this position for. Are you here to uplift the community? Are you here to provide them with the skills and mindsets needed to achieve their full potential? Then put your money where your mouth is. Pay your educators to stay here and give some stability to this district that is pinballed from crisis to crisis for far too long. Thank you.
our next public comment is Marie Bowles.
Good evening. First, I'd like to congratulate the Pinole Valley High School Spartans football team for their first ever state championship in their division. Quite an accomplishment. At the beginning of the school year, I came to this board and identified that there was a serious problem with the severely inadequate seating in our newly renovated stadium, which reduced our stadium seating capacity to less than half of what we had before the renovation. I've spoken at almost every board meeting highlighting this issue ever since, requesting a remedy and offering many solutions. After attending many meetings and sending several emails due to games selling out and seating not being available, on October 19th, I received an email from Mr. Freeze stating that Pinole Valley High School would be getting bleachers to accommodate another 500 students for senior night activities. We received seating for about half of that, and the seating was taken away right after that event. On October 27th, Kibby and I met with Mr. Freeze and his assistant to walk the property and identify where additional seating could be placed, since he had previously stated that there was no room for additional seating. At this meeting, it was determined that there is in fact plenty of room for additional seating. He said that he would get figures to us for two options, one being an additional structure with the additional seating, which I personally think is going to be too expensive, and the other being just getting bleachers to accommodate the entire student body of about 1,200 students in the stadium. Since our meeting at the school, we have not had any communication with Mr. Freeze regarding the additional seating for our stadium. The kids have done their part by winning the state championship. And now can we please do our part to get this done? We need seating for our students and fans. We can't even celebrate our state championship in our stadium because we can't seat our student body. Could you please get this done for our students? They've done their part. Thank you.
Our next public speaker is Mr. Mark Schultz.
Restart my time, please. Thank you. This district is in a predicted financial mess, and last year furthered the problem by spending thousands of public dollars on an unlawful vaccination mandate. If it continues on its course, in June 2023, the district will have to spend thousands more to defend its mandate, save the public money, and repeal the mandate. Originally, you recommended and adopted a vaccination mandate you believe was lawful. Community members protested based upon California statutes. You rejected that evidence against your mandate. Next, you were given evidence from the California State Board of Health that unequivocally stated, quote, "No rule or regulation on the subject of vaccination shall be adopted by school or local health authorities," unquote. And also stated, quote, "The control of the communicable diseases is absolutely and entirely in the province of health departments," unquote. You rejected that evidence also. Both SDUSD and LAUSD were sued because of their vaccination mandates and both lost. You reject this evidence too. SDUSD appealed the ruling, and 2 weeks ago, the appeals court ruled against the district. The ruling is applicable throughout the entire state. In the ruling, you may read the following: the Superior Court determined there was a statewide standard for school vaccination, leaving no room for each of the over 1,000 individual school districts to impose a patchwork of additional vaccine mandates. On independent review, we reached the same conclusion and affirmed the judgment. You also reject this evidence against your unlawful mandate. You continue to be biased by your personal beliefs and preferences despite the clear and overwhelming evidence that your mandate is unlawful. To avoid further legal expenses to the district, I request that you recognize your bias and agendize the repeal of your unlawful mandate. If you hold tight to your bias, I request you all, and not the public, fund the imminent future expenses for its promotion and defense. Thank you.
Our next public speaker is Mr. Francisco Ortiz. He left? Okay. Our next public comment is Kimberly Chamberlain.
Good evening, Kimberly Chamberlain, IFPTE Local 21 SSA Chapter President. Tonight, we've been bargaining, just as many others have, but tonight I'm going to say something to each one of my members out there: Jamal, Jania, Eric, and Andrea, Rocio, Lynn, Raylene, Wayne, Jack, Lisa, Samantha, Casey, Demi, Joseph, Daniel, Jan, Justine, Larisha, George, John, Alexandra, Mac, Jeff, Victor, Shannon, Mercedes, Vicky, Juan, Kristen, Brandon, Sonia, Sarah, Valerie, Lori, Brianna, Mike, Megan, Matthew, Alexander, Rayshawn, Jerica, Sylvia, Elaine, Thomas, Brent, Ias, Cornell, Dylan, Stephanie, Tracy, Kardeep, Charles, Terry, James, Sabrina, Jacqueline, Mary, Nicole, Francie, Suzanne, Randall, Mark, Cheryl, Jim, Sophia, Julie, Lori, Tanya, Tashaka, Roxana, Kristen, Eric, Genesis, Julie, Amanda, Ferris, David, Matthew, Jessica, Nancy, Sergio, Wendy, Steve, Giselle, Elizabeth, Jennifer, Sharika, Sherry, Gerald, Larisha, Letitia, Consuelo, Margarita, Phyllis, Elizabeth, May, Catherine, Maria, Cedric, Dennis, Denise, Veronica, Tomas, Debbie, Nick, Melissa, Liz, Wanda, Darlene, Antonio, Elsa, Anna, Jenny, Veronica, Victor, Christina, Terry, Jasmine, Yorkie, Christina, Malik, Laura, and Maria. Thank you for everything you do. These are the people that are being affected when we're trying to negotiate our contracts. Thank you very much.
Our next public comment is Jesus. Can you please state your last name for the record?
Last name is Galindo. Galindo. I want to anchor my comment with gratitude. Trustee CJ Miles, I greatly appreciate the shout out during the last meeting. I was visiting a school and I was dropping off some flyers and some folders, and I came across a very energetic, ecstatic administrator. And she inquired about what was inside the folder. And I mentioned that we had our strike ballots. And she looked shocked. She said, wow, I never imagined it would come to this. There's a lot of people who doubt our ability to follow through on a strike. They don't think we have what it takes. But there's something they don't understand, which is why and who we fight for. It's not about salary. It's not about community schools. It's about the love that we have for our work and the people we have the privilege of serving every day. I want to end my comment by saying, great minds think alike. During last meeting, Mr. said that COLA belongs to the workers. All the COLA belongs to the workers. That should be reflected during bargaining in the deal that we're offered. Thank you for your time. And by the way, WCCUSD has some of the best students, and we're so grateful to work with them.
Our next public comment is the Black Parent Group. Could you please state your name?
Zalon Harrison. Hi, good evening, board. Thank you. I just would like to say, the Black students in our district has a resolution, and I don't know what any of the board members are doing or have done to look at that resolution and to ensure that they're using that resolution, or instructing staff to use the resolution to support and address our data that we have on our Black students in our district. A lot of the times we're trying to recreate the wheel when we have solutions sitting right there. The Black Parent Research Center had a focus group over the weekend, and we got to have and hear a lot of rich conversations around some ideas parents have on solutions that will work. And Dr. Hurst did get to listen to some of those ideas and thoughts in the DL cap yesterday, but it was definitely a lot more. So I encourage the board members to remember that we do have a resolution that was board passed for our students. And it was that way because we knew the state of our students and the condition they were in academically. And we have to work intentionally to change that. That can't just happen because we're good people. We have to put in work daily to ensure that all children are getting an education, including Black children. So that means we need to have teachers and paraprofessionals and people who want to educate all children, including our children. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Kate Butler. Please unmute yourself. Kate Butler. Our next public comment is Chandra Scher. Please unmute yourself.
Good evening. My name is Chandra Scher. I teach second and third grade at Ohlone Elementary. I became a combination class at the end of September. I am not there in person for this meeting because I'm still working on a project for my students. My hands are tired from cutting out over 250 cloth snowmen for my students to sew. And despite having my class collapsed and restructured mid-year, I'm really having a wonderful year with my students. I, like many of my colleagues, however, am not having a wonderful year financially, as nearly every living expense has gone up. In November, my cat, Oski, suffered a stroke. He has been a part of my family since my teaching career started 17 years ago. He attended every distance learning Zoom, often participating in classroom discussions, whether invited to or not. During the long drive to the vet, not knowing if he would survive, I worried that I would not be able to afford his medical care and that he would have to be euthanized. This made me realize I cannot afford to work for you anymore at this rate. Nearly every district within driving distance of WCCUSD is paying significantly more. We cannot attract new teachers with the salaries being offered. 195 vacancies should tell you all you need to know. I urge you to resolve bargaining with UTR and give teachers the salary increase they deserve so that we don't lose more teachers to other districts and have more mid-year class shutdowns and teacher transfers. Job fairs start soon. We need something better to offer before them. Students will continue to suffer without your swift action. Every child should have a qualified educator in every classroom. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Tricia G. Please state your last name for the record. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, I'm sorry. I thought I changed my name on Zoom. Patricia Garrett. Hi, superintendent and trustees and everybody there and at home. I remembered the board meeting at 6 o'clock when I was leaving school. I'd been there for 11 hours, working with my kids, having meetings to make sure that my kids have everything they need, working with colleagues to make sure that they have everything they need to serve those kids. And I just thought, man, I'm really, really tired. I just want to go home and zone out. And I said, I'm going to get on Zoom. And then I said, man, I really don't want to do a public comment. Maybe I'll just listen. And I just can't not do a public comment because I work at Peary's K-8 and pretty much every year since I've started working there, we've lost almost 10 teachers. We started this year with 7 vacancies and we still have 4 classrooms that don't have a permanent teacher in them. This is nearly halfway through the year. And this happens every year. It's because we can't attract people with the wages that they're paying teachers who have gone through schooling and have come to work with such passion. And I gotta say, when I talk to my coworkers, I'm the site union rep. The question isn't if we're gonna strike, it's when. So just so y'all know, we're ready. Thank you for your time.
Our next public comment is Sarah Creeley. Can you please unmute yourself?
Hi,
Thank you for your service to our children. Can you hear me? Great. Okay, well, I was hired in 1992, so I've been a teacher with our district for 30 years. My name is Sarah Creeley, and I'm a teacher at Hannah Ranch. I teach second grade. I want you to know that, you know, it is a treasure. Being a teacher is a beautiful thing. And when you're an older teacher like me, I plan to keep going. Maybe I'll make 40 years. But when you're a teacher that's been teaching this long, that cares about children as much as I do, one of the things that you really care about is, are there people that are going to take over my spot when I do retire and when other teachers do leave? And right now, for our district, the answer is no. Dr. Hurst, I heard you once tell a group that I'm a member of that you wanted our district to be a district that people chose to come to, that they wanted to come to it because it was so special. I remember you saying that. And I believe that you want to do that. And I will say to you that in 2004, when people in my community wanted to secede from this district and join John Sweat, something I was adamantly against. My daughter was a kindergartner at Hannah Ranch at that time, the school where I teach. And anyways, they did a study, even though the community did not want to secede, they did a $40,000 study. And the one thing that I took from that study was the educational scientific research that the number one variable in student success, student achievement, is teacher quality. You don't have teacher quality when you don't have teachers. It is unanimous at our school. The vote is unanimous that we will strike. And I just want to say, we have to do something to attract new teachers because we are going into a downward spiral in our district. And the ADA we will lose from people leaving because their kids can't have a teacher, don't have a teacher. That's number one. It's number one. And thank you for your time and your consideration. Please remember that and go back to the table and work with us. We need a pay increase that is equitable and comparable to other districts. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Francisco Ortiz.
Good evening, board members and Dr. Hurst. My name is Francisco Ortiz, and I'm a district alumnus, 10-year district teacher, and community schools organizer for United Teachers of Richmond. I'm here today because I'm concerned and disappointed by management's direction to completely change the makeup of the Community Schools Support Collaborative. We need more family, student, educators, and community ownership of this body. It is also deeply concerning that management wants to employ weak accountability measures to implement the great potential of the transformative community schools model and approach. The California Department of Education awarded our district the 5th largest community schools implementation grant to the tune of $30 million. This prioritization of historic funding was made possible because of the strong collaboration and shared leadership between management and labor, led by UTR. UTR was an integral component in securing these funds and specifically named in the grant application submitted to the CDE. We urge management to work with us and leverage our collective strengths, knowledge, and impact so that our communities experience the full potential of the transformative community schools equity strategy. UTR proposed Article 53 establishes a permanent voice for students, families, educators, and community members in the decision-making processes at the district-wide and school site levels. We are deeply invested in the transformational approach and have been educating our members since the fall of 2021. In comparison, management barely put out its first community schools communication the day after they declared an impasse on United Teachers of Richmond unilaterally. UTR is advocating for strong collaboration in family, student, educator, and community ownership of our community schools. Our community schools should not be dictated by transient and temporary central office administrators who will not be here in the next few years. But we, the students, families, educators, and communities will have to live with the impact of their decisions. We urge the board to accept our latest proposal for community schools in the contract, which places families, students, educators, and the community at the center of decision-making power. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Lucy Justo. Please unmute yourself.
Hello, my name is Lucy Justo. I'm a teacher at Hercules Middle School, founding teacher from 2001, and I'm also a parent. We need to honor all of the people that deal with children on a day-to-day basis. I am from the district. I graduated from the district, Go Gauchos. I went to El Monte Elementary School. It has since closed, but Mr. Larry, our custodian, would go down the slide, fall on his rear end to make us laugh. Miss McCorvey, our kindergarten teacher, my sister has tried to get in touch with her because she has really touched her soul. Mrs. Coffey, my second grade teacher, Ms. Palfini, my third grade teacher, Mr. Kirby, my fourth, fifth, and sixth grade teacher, Mrs. Zane, my eighth grade teacher, and Mrs. Garcia, my seventh grade English teacher, inspired me to become a teacher. Our clerical staff and our custodians see our students every day and parents every day. They're the first people that parents see when they enter the office. We need to focus on our community and our students. Yes, salary is part of it. This is not a vocation. We're not donating our time, nor would a CEO of a company donate their salary to benefit students. We use our time and we're there for our students, but so are the custodians, so are the receptionists, so are clerical staff and everybody else that works in the Teamsters and Local 1 and all of our teachers. We had many teachers leave last year in the middle of the year because of the way we're treated. It's not just the money, it's free to say thank you. We need to change the way we talk to each other. Thank you.
Our next public comment is Tomas. Can you please state your last name for the record?
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Yes, my name is Tomas Flores, Flores. I am a parent of an Ohlone student. I'm also a former high school teacher, and I continue to work in education now. I think what I'm hearing often when the teachers are not being paid their due is that my child is not worth it. And that is the message that you give to the parents, that our children are not worth having quality teachers, because my child and all the other children who are in these schools should not have teachers who are worried that they're not going to be able to make rent, that they're not going to be able to take care of the basic necessities. Everyone knows that a teacher has touched them in some way, has influenced them in some way. Everyone has been taught, but not everybody can teach. We need to retain those people who can teach. There are plenty of districts near us that they can go to. And if there isn't more holding them here than just their passion for their students, they need to be able to live, and we need to be able to provide that to them. If we don't pay teachers what they're worth, then we're only going to end up with teachers who are worth what you pay. Thank you.
Our last public comment for tonight is Chanel Jose. Please unmute yourself.
Hi, my name is Chanel Jose. I am a product of the WCCUSD. I went to El Sobrani Elementary, Donner Elementary, Crespi, now Soskin, and Middle College High School. I am currently also a special education teacher at King Elementary. Unfortunately, I am a contract teacher, and I came to the school board meeting today to show my support for the district teachers. I understand that the district teachers are so frustrated. I work with so many of them at King, and they work wonders. And I wish I could be a district teacher as well. Unfortunately, the offers that I received from the district were too low for me to be able to live in the area. I want to be able to give back to the community that I came from and to the district that I have met so many teachers who, in my lifetime, who have taught me to be a great person. All the way from kindergarten, Ms. Kiblinger, to sixth grade, Ms. Fong, and to high school, Mr. Hoffman, Ms. Close, and Ms. Williams and Ms. Wooler. So many people have impacted my life in the way that shaped me to be the teacher here today. So I'm urging you, school board and superintendent, and all those up in the district offices to really understand where the UTR teachers are coming from. They want to stay here. They want to support the children here. However, they cannot do so if they cannot live in the area. I think someone brought up earlier where they could not afford to stay here anymore because of their vet bills. And that is so true. California living costs are way too high. I wish that I could be a district teacher here and work with everyone and be in line with them. And I'm just urging the board and everybody to show support for those teachers, however, because you do not want teachers who only work to rule. If so, students will not get their education. Thank you.
That concludes her public comment.
All right, thank you. I want to thank everyone for giving public comment this evening. And as we continue to move along with the agenda for this evening, we're going to the agenda review and adoption. Are there any changes to agenda review and adoption?
President Christian, I move that we approve the agenda as is.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Smith Folds seconds.
All right, it's been second. And we start off with our student trustees down there. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
trustee Sopena,
Pimpania, yes.
all right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, so yes.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
all right, and trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right, and myself a yes. And the agenda has been moved and adopted. And now we're going to approval of the minutes of November the 29th. Actually, there's a few more.
Yeah, we can do all of them at once.
November the 2nd, November the 7th, and November the 16th, November the 28th. And we'll vote all of it together.
President Christian, I move that we adopt the minutes from November 2nd, 7th, 16th, and 28th.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Smith Folds seconds.
It's second. And now to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
all right. Trustee Sapanya,
Pimpania, yes.
all right. And we got trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
All right. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
Oh, I'm sorry. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
No worries. Thank you. Gonzalez, so yes.
All right, and then trustee Reckler. Yes,
Reckler, yes.
okay, and trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right, and myself a yes. And so the agenda, the minutes has been adopted. And so now we'll move on to C, business consent items. Are there any changes to the consent items?
President Christian, I move that we approve the consent items.
All right, it's been moved. Is there a second?
Smith Folds seconds.
It's been seconded by Smith Folds, and now we go to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
all right. Trustee Topania,
Tanya, yes.
okay. Trustee Phillips,
Yeah.
all right. Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy,
Gonzalez, so yes.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
all right. Trustee Smith Folds,
Smith Folds, yes.
all right. And myself a yes. All right. The consent calendar has been adopted. And now we're gonna move to the superintendent communication.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. We can go to the next slide, please. We just wanted to make everyone aware that December the 2nd is National Special Education Day. And we wanted to recognize the Special Education Department team under the leadership of Sonia Neely Johnson. We also want to recognize our families and community for their hard work and dedication to students, our special needs students within WCCUSD. We also want to mention that the Special Ed Department has had several activities and events happening across the district to celebrate and highlight our students in special education. So we just wanted to just share with everyone, happy National Special Education Day. Next slide. We have been doing some training with our principals and our assistant principals, and I spoke about this at the previous board meeting, but we have one of our executive directors, Director Summer Sigler, here to talk about the work that we're doing with our principals, with our VPs, and with our counselors around master scheduling with a equity lens. So I'm going to turn it over to Ms. Sigler.
Thank you, Dr. Hurst, and thank you, board. We really have analyzed as a team just the impact of the master schedule. And when we look at our equity levers and the need for all of our students to have access to rigorous and relevant coursework to be ready for their goals, the master schedule is the place that allows us to leverage teacher time, which is absolutely the greatest resource in the entire district. The master schedule, and as we plan, it also guides our decisions around hiring, credentials, staffing. It's a place of great fiscal responsibility, and it really is an intersection for our curricular teams in A through G alignment, ensuring kids are receiving the right course credit, and ensuring that they're prepared for college and career. And really, it's a place where business services, human resources, educational services all intersect to support school staffs and our students. You could go to the next slide. So Dr. Huey is going to talk a little bit just about the timeline and in particular the A through G alignment.
Okay, so the master schedule timeline really represents the full range of the process that ends up with there being a set of courses available for students to take each year. This process involves ensuring that all site admin and staff involved with master scheduling really understand and embody our district priorities and how those affect the choices that we make about master schedules. For example, because we want all students to be able to be A through G eligible, we want to make sure that we're planning and funding master schedules at each school that ensure that students have access to all of the courses that they would need to meet A through G eligibility. And that's important because the state graduation requirements are actually lower and fewer than A through G eligibility requirements. So what we are ensuring and guaranteeing is that we believe in students' ability to meet A through G requirements. So we're making a commitment to our students to be able to make that threshold. So a big part of the work that you'll see here in this timeline involves our A through G alignment team. This team meets with school site staff several times between now and the next August to ensure that we remove old courses that are not in use from the school's A through G list on the UC course management portal. And we make sure that any courses that are added are properly vetted and submitted for UC approval. This process ensures that we have courses that are taught by an appropriately credentialed teacher, that there are sufficient resources to fund any necessary instructional materials, and that the course is approved by UC to meet the requirements for A through G eligibility, as well as any additional requirements such as AP and CTE standards where that's necessary for those courses. So between now and May, school site teams are meeting with the alignment team, which includes various individuals from both curriculum and instruction, as well as special programs throughout the district leadership to finalize that list of courses that they'll plan to offer next year. They're getting input from students about their course interests for next year. They're reviewing staffing needs based on their planned schedule, and they're working to get all of the information into our student information system so that we're ready to print schedules for next August.
We could go to the next slide. And so we really want to zone in on this equity focus. And so what we've done around really ensuring that these schedules and really our student access at our schools is equitable is we've done a retraining that began in November through Illuminate Ed. There will be another session in March that's really a broad picture of what does it mean to create schedules that have equity at the center. We're using a seat-based model. And what that means is we're taking our initial enrollment projections and we're putting it against the graduation requirements and A through G requirements to really project what are the seats we need to get our students what they need. We've projected those. We have met with counselors, administrators, business services, human resources, and the ed services teams, and the collaboration has been just phenomenal around this process. And then as we go through this process and build out the schedules in the second semester, one of the things starting in January, February is we'll be taking a deep look at how are we really recruiting all students into advanced courses, making sure that, you know, our advanced courses are as representative of our entire student body as possible. We are building an interest-based survey along with the choice sheets to really help counselors and administrators think thoughtfully about how to counsel students into courses that align with their interests. We are looking at data from our reading inventories to really look at our tier 1 supports and how we're aligning curriculum to ensure that students can get the intervention that they need in their regular classes. And then fiscally, we're really looking at how do we run enough sections to fill sections and give students what they need, but make sure that we're being fiscally responsible And we're planning early. This process started in early November and it's iterative and ongoing to make sure that we are really collaborating up and down the system to ensure that our students get what they need. So thank you so much for your support as we shift and streamline our master schedule process.
Next slide. I'd like to say thank you to Ms. Sigler and Dr. Huey. If you could just hang around for questions afterwards. We also wanted to update the board and the community on our project management timeline. We spoke about this before as well. And we introduced Kyra Brown as one of the people who have been putting this timeline together for us. I won't read all of the elements, but I will share that the conversation started with big buckets that we really want to make sure that we're engaging with the community around. So we talked about budget ambassadors. I know that Dr. Robert McIntyre has been talking about that piece. We've also talked about safety presentations. We've talked about facilities updates to the community and engaging with the community as well. We talked about academic and data updates. You'll see that in our presentation on our timeline also, and information from HR. So just to call out a few, for an example, you'll see certificated workshops in October, community data sessions. November, you'll see board data sessions, HR workshops. December, you'll see HR resume workshops, community data sessions. January, you'll see budget ambassadors and a potential proposed joint CBOC. Also, January, you'll see a HR interview workshop. In March, you see a community data session. April, you see a board data session, and then May, you see a community data session. So as we've been talking, even since the summer, we have shared that we're going to be placing these items on a project management timeline, but also we're in the process of developing a governance calendar. Some of these items will go on the governance calendar as well that will be adopted by the board. So we just wanted to make all of you aware that we have begun our project management timeline as we shared. This is the start. We still have items to enter on our timeline, but we wanted to make you aware of the conversations and progress that we've made since the beginning of the school year. And what we're going to do is we're going to turn it over to our students at this time. They have a presentation as well, and then we'll come back and open up for questions for master scheduling, the timeline, and for the students. Can we bring up the student presentation?
Okay. So this is today's meeting's student trustee report, and we're just gonna bring in some updates about the All Student Congress and the survey, and CJ will take it off from there.
Hello. Our first update is that we met with Ms. Blake about our goals for the All Student Congress, and we've decided to include old All Student Congress members and try to recruit new ones. And we will be contacting the spring semester trustees about the startup for next year. We also met with the communications department, which was Ms. Sanders and Ms. Sigler. And the student resource survey will be released along with the mid-year SEL wellness screener in January, because they're asking fairly similar questions, and we thought it would be a good idea to roll them out around the same time. And we are also considering attending a principals meeting to present the survey and the benefits. Translations for the survey are also being completed at this time. Next slide.
And then for the updates about the All Student Congress, secondary school sites are going to be recruiting nominees for the All Student Congress. And they should be in by this Friday, December 9th, and then there'll be a follow-up for the final count on the week of December 12th. And then in first introductions for the All Student Congress should start in late January after the winter break. And there's also going to be a meeting.
Yes, on December 15th, there's going to be a meeting where students from the district are able to come in, and there's going to be a workshop that Evelyn and I will be helping facilitate, and we're just going to get some information about planning for All Student Congress and what the All Student Congress should be focusing on.
And then here we have the survey timeline. So in November, we had a meeting with the communication department and Ms. Sigler to finalize the survey questions. And we're decided that for the climate department, they're going to consider adding extra questions to the survey that they might want. And also the multilingual department has created translated version of the survey. And again, the January wellness screener, in the mid-year one, the survey will be released alongside with it. And any questions or comments?
So this time we'll turn it back over to the board president for questions and comments on both presentations.
All right, and we'll take questions from the board. Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy.
Thank you, President Christian. I have one question for Ms. Sigler, and then a question for our student trustees, and actually one question for Ms. Sanders. My first question, Ms. Sigler, this might be too large of a question, but and unrelated to master scheduling, but where does the ethnic studies, the consistency of ethnic studies courses fit in the master scheduling for the district?
That is a good question. And it is part of the A through G alignment process that Dr. Huey talked about. And I know I will answer also for Mr. Chilcott, who has been working on the ethnic studies rollout. And what he is working on is doing integrated ethnic studies and history. And so he's working on literally changing every social science course title to ethnic studies in US history or ethnic studies in world history. Richmond High School actually has been a pioneer of this, and the courses have gone really well there and been well received by the students.
That was very exciting. Thank you, Ms. Ziegler, for that. My next question is for our student trustees. Do we provide any type of community service incentive or any type of incentive for student participation in the Student Congress? Or has there been conversation about that?
Is there? If you'd like to elaborate on that, because
There hasn't been too much discussion about that, but part of the All Student Congress is being nominated for your school site. You're going to be representative for the All Student Congress in order to bring your own voice, and that's in terms of the community service aspect. So we could try to see if there's any extra incentives for students joining it as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much for that. And then my next question is for Ms. Sanders. And I think that's three, if I'm not correct. Are we going to potentially do any type of incentive for students to respond to the survey like we did with, for example, in the spring, or maybe 2 years ago? I'm starting to lose track, but like a raffle or anything like that, so that we encourage participation?
Can you restate your question? I believe
Yes, I'm sorry, I started rambling. Are we doing any type of incentive to encourage participation in the survey, the student survey?
That's a great question that has not come up yet in the discussion about the survey distribution. What we did discuss was wanting to minimize interruption to instructional time while making sure we have as much of an inclusive process as possible. So that's part of why we've discussed integrating this with the SEL screener that will be going out to all secondary students in January, so that there's a singular disruption of instructional time rather than two.
Thank you for that. Back to you, President Christian. That was my last question.
All right, thank you. Trustee, I see Trustee Reckler.
Guess it doesn't want me to ask questions. Hello, nice to see everybody. Thank you for your report. These questions are on the master scheduling. Would you be able to please describe what a seat-based model is versus what had been done before?
Yeah, that's another good question, Leslie. So historically, what we've done is we actually get our enrollment projections, and then they sort of sit on the side historically. And we give choice sheets to students, and then we look at what the students are asking for, and we say, this is what we need. And typically in that model, what a school needs is greater than what their enrollment and allocation says. And so then we debate site versus district around program, and it's all extra, and it really can inflate a budget. And so what we did is we took very, very initial enrollment projections, and we said, looking at the graduation requirements, or in middle school, what student schedule is. You know, if I think we're going to have 300 ninth graders divided by a class size of 35, this is how many sections we need for English 1. And we went through based on every requirement, and we spelled out what that would look like. And then Dr. Huey and I met with business services. And at some school sites where that came out was less FTE than they've had in previous years. And at some it was more. And so we looked and really haggled together, and they're able to use that to drive the allocation sites are given up front. And so what we're doing is saying that we're not going to debate program at the same length we used to. We're saying this is what students need. And then what happens is that's kind of on business services side. They have a really clean picture of why sites need this for students to take the classes that they must take. And then sites are using this as they plan the choice sheets to not overinflate offerings. And so, you know, a great example of this would be, I put AP Physics on a choice sheet and 12 students are passionate, and we run a class for 12. And then you're running another class at really large over because we don't have the money to actually run both. And so we're asking sites to really think, don't put the tiny class on there. Do that interest survey. Think about what students want first, right? We do want to meet their need, but we're going to run programs that we can fill. And so offer less on your choice sheet, but make sure it's the high quality program that students really want and need.
Okay, that's great. That leads right into the next question, which is, how are you going to balance what kids need versus what they want? So here comes a kid who wants AP chemistry, signs up for AP chemistry, and oops, you got 12 students and now you're just in regular chemistry. How do you plan to address that and ameliorate negative effects?
Right. So one of the things is planning early and in advance. And so one thing sites can do, an example, chemistry is a great example. If you're a large high school with 2,000 students, right? You have enough students, you can run AP biology, AP chemistry, multiple sections. If you're a high school of 800 students, you may not be able to do that. So you set up a rotation. We are going to run AP biology this year, and we're really encouraging juniors to enroll, and we are going to run AP chemistry next year. You can take that your senior year. But it does require this 50,000-yard lens to think about programming over years, not just in 1 year, for a student experience, so that we're running classes at capacity. But we certainly can rotate those classes so that a student in their high school experience gets these rigorous courses that are going to make them really competitive for college. And that's actually been a real priority as we meet with principals, math and science in particular. That access is important, and planning out to ensure that students have that access.
Okay, and then finally, placing students and balancing classes is during the first 2, 3 month, 5, 6 weeks of school has probably been, I'll stop there. What is being done in this process that will help to balance classes on day one?
Yes. And some of that actually initiated this process, right? If we're just really honest. So the reality is that this process and the early planning should alleviate a lot of that. Business services is working really hard to get the staffing numbers out earlier so sites can plan earlier. And the monitoring that's happening from myself and Dr. Huey in this new process, we've built checkpoints of monitoring. So that we know if a school has actually fallen behind. And so we are planning not only the work with our team, which I think we highlighted in this meeting, really our work with counselors and administrators, but kind of if you picture the behind the curtain of that, there's a lot of work that we are doing to check that our asks have been followed in a timely manner. And so we are looking at that to make sure, and if a school site falls off track, that we're getting that help in there this spring and not learning about the issues in the fall.
Okay, thank you. I do have a couple of comments at the end.
Trustee Smith-Folds.
Thank you. So I want to know how you kind of reconcile the fact that you have one high school that will offer some courses like ASL, right? They will offer Mandarin or a different foreign language. And then you have other sites that offer what we would probably consider the bare minimum, right? I'll offer you Spanish and I'll offer you chemistry, but you don't get AP chemistry because you have to have a teacher qualified to teach an AP course, right? So if you don't have a teacher at that site that can teach that, then that course is not offered anyway. How do we reconcile as a district the different offerings that we have from site to site to site to site? And when we're looking at scheduling, are we thinking about how do we kind of level that out? Is that part of the conversation? That's my first question.
Yeah, so I think one of our priorities is that at every single high school, students need access to, if you say, I'm a pre-med high school kid, right? I'm going to go and I'm going to be a doctor, then you deserve access to the advanced math and science courses at your high school period. And I think that's a stance that we're taking that in my time in the district has not been taken in this way. And so that's the first step, right? Is putting it out and saying we are planning schedules to include this coursework in a sustainable way. I think the second piece is our students are so diverse and wonderful, and their interests are more varied than one campus will ever offer. And so we are an open enrollment district for program. And so if a child says, I'm going to be a lawyer, but my school doesn't have a law academy, we offer them the opportunity to move to a school that has that academy. And so one of the things I think we can partner with in the district is really making sure we're putting out lists of those programs so that it's obvious to parents. And I know that even in the principal meeting yesterday, principals are proud of their programs, and they were really having deep conversations about how do we get that out there? How do we make sure the public's really aware of the things that make us special? And I think we can deepen that work as well.
So they can go, we aren't open enrollment, but they can only do open enrollment if they provide the transportation. So we have to make sure that we're clear about that. They have to provide their own transportation, and transportation, once again, will become a barrier to equity if we don't talk about it. Thank you for that. The second, when do we send out intent to return forms? You do this deep dive seat work in December. When do we send out intent to return forms to our families?
So that's a good question. So we don't in our comprehensive schools send families intent to return forms. And our retention from grade to grade in our secondary schools is pretty good. We actually have some patterns that between 7th and 8th grade, many of our programs grow. And actually, most of our high schools grow between 9th and 10th grade. We actually have about 30 more students in 10th grade than 9th grade of students who've either moved to the area or returned from charter. So we do those forms for staff. So human resources sends them out in January, and our site principals send them out actually usually in January, February.
Okay, because some sites send them out to kids, right? Some sites send them out like, are you going to come back to the high school? So some sites do it. So I was curious about when that date was. The other thing is EOS. Are we still utilizing EOS, and are we utilizing the opt-in or the opt-out model?
So I can talk a little bit about that. So Equal Opportunity Schools was a contractor that we have used in past years. We really enjoyed our partnership with them, and we learned a lot from it, which I think is probably the intent of partnering with any organization, is to learn and then to be able to expand upon your learnings, right? And so given current necessity to reduce our budget, we have not continued our partnership with Equal Opportunity Schools this year. At the same time, we have a lot of learnings that we have gleaned from that partnership that we can take into future years. Those learnings include really, asking students like about their educational experience, who their educational champions are on campus. Do they have trusted adults? What their goals are in the future, and then utilizing those responses and those data to actually influence how we look at students who might be great candidates for classes that they aren't actually accessing, but might be wonderful candidates for. So one of the best tools that EOS gave us was a student survey. We can do a student survey. And then in fact, that's one of our plans this coming year, is to issue a student survey along with the student course guide so that we can utilize that student survey data in order to be able to accurately place students and identify students who might be great candidates for advanced coursework, that they might not be self-selecting, that they might just need an additional push from an adult to be like, you know what, I think you're a great candidate for this course, and I'm here for you and will support you if you select it.
So are we going to use, so from EOS, are we thinking of using the opt-in model that they've taught and trained the district's sites on, or are we going to use the opt-out model that they've taught and trained the district sites on? Have we made that decision yet? Are we still weighing the pros and cons to that? Or are we going to take—
Trustee Foltz, I think I love that line of questioning, and I think that it's two trains, right? Two trains leaving the station at the same time. It's a bit of both, truthfully, like, right? You can't,
It's the whole leading a horse to water business. So we are going to make sure that we're making all the invitations that we can possibly make for any student who indicates that they would like to choose a course of study that is challenging or would like to have an opportunity. We're going to make those invitations. We're going to make the invitations to students who exhibit academic capacity and who might not have indicated an interest. We're going to make invitations to anybody that we think that could be successful and that might benefit from it. And we're going to make those invitations known that it's not that we're not creating barriers for students. Like you don't have to you don't have to meet a specific threshold to be invited into these spaces. Our invitations will remain open. So that's one answer, right? So that's one answer. The other answer, I think, is, and I'm sorry, you gave me two scenarios. Tell me, your two scenarios were.
So the two scenarios are opt-in.
Opt-in,
Opt
okay.
into an AP course, because your slide was talking about, it was very clear about the advanced placement classes, right?
Right.
So that aligns directly with what EOS was training the district on for years and training sites on for years. And they had a two-pronged kind of approach. You can either do the opt-in method or you can do the opt-out method. So when we're gleaning this learning from them, which one are we talking about as a district that we're going to try to implement across the board for students with our AP offerings?
Okay, so again, I will kind of double down a bit on it's both, right? So we definitely want to make sure that we are allowing opportunities for all children to opt in at any point, right? And with any reasoning, whether it's, I think I can do it and I've just never had a partner and a cheerleader, I want to have access. You get access, baby. We're here for you. We will find a partner for you. We will find a cheerleader for you. And then it's the opt-out model as well. So I'll give you an example. So in many of our pathway programs, particularly in CTE, our model, which follows the state model, is making sure that we embed early college access. So that might be a dual enrolled program, an articulated program, et cetera, so that students have access to these advanced courses as part of their regular course of study, right? So we're trying to provide and embed both opportunities for students at many entry points. And I think in general, our ethos is, we want to provide multiple on-roads and on-ramps to success for our children, because we know that one model doesn't work for everybody.
President Christian, I just have, thank you. President Christian, I just have comments.
Okay. And Trustee Phillips.
Thank you. I want to ask some questions, but I want to start with some younger children, and I'm going to work from middle school backwards, but it's in the same line of questions that have been asked thus far. My first question is, are our middle school students able to take algebra?
So this isn't fully my lane because I'm not curriculum and instruction, but my understanding right now is that our model is not to do algebra in 8th grade, that we have algebra in 9th grade.
Are the middle school students in the other districts, and I understand that it's a district by district decision, but are the middle school students in the other districts able to take algebra?
I would defer that question to, I'm firmly rooted in this district, Trustee Phillips, so I would defer to Ms. Martin maybe to get back to you.
Or the superintendent, Dr. Hurst, you've been in many districts. It reminds me of that song, I've been everywhere, man. In your experience, are middle school students able to take algebra?
Yeah, I'm gonna let Larisha jump in as well, but I can share with you in the districts that I've been in, certainly in the one in Southern Cal, absolutely, middle school students take Algebra 1.
Thank you.
Yes, trustee Phillips. Actually, we have a neighboring district where you're able to take algebra in 8th grade. So that is correct. And there are other districts where you can. Yes.
We're gonna have comments, right? Okay. My next question is, if now I'm gonna go to elementary. Our elementary school students who are strong in whatever the subject may be, what opportunities do we have for them? So for example, if you have a gifted 11-year-old, which I do, what opportunities do we have for them?
So our presentation was really exclusively secondary, so I'm also going to defer that question to Ms. Martin. Excuse me, Ms. Huffman.
That's okay. We do have, opportunities around exploration of, we have Project Lead the Way in some of our middle schools. We also have, in our elementary schools, we also have other pathway exploration opportunities for our middle school students and for our elementary students. So those are some opportunities. We do not have a GATE program anymore. Per the state, you don't actually have to offer GATE programming anymore in your school districts. And so that's not something that we have. So really our options are, essentially pathway courses, which we're trying to build out. We do have, like I said, Project Lead the Way at our middle schools. We do have some in our elementary schools, but there's not a robust level of opportunity if a child is gifted or advanced in our elementary schools. So that's something that we definitely, need to think about and work on as a district.
Thank you. I think that answers my question, and I'll save the rest for comments.
All right, and now we'll move to the comment session. Um, 2 minutes. 2 minutes for the comment section, so. And with the 3 questions. All right. So you want to go? 2 minutes.
Okay. First, we just had this conversation around making offerings to our students, and if they're strong, they can do this, and if they're strong, that they can do that. But our kids are not able to take algebra until they get into high school, while their peers in surrounding districts are able to take it in middle school. So they come into high school, frankly, behind their peers. The peers that they have to compete with to get into the better colleges. So I think that we need to go back to offering algebra starting next school year for 8th graders. My daughter will be in the 8th grade. The 11-year-old that I was just talking about should be in the 8th grade next year. The second thing is we have almost nothing for gifted elementary school students. In my household, we've basically created our own program. And I know that other families have done the same thing. My child, she was in TK for about 2 months and then was advanced to the first grade. And she went to the first grade because we were scared to put her in a higher grade because of her emotional well-being. But she could have went past the first grade after like really like 2 months of TK. And there's nothing for her. We don't have a GATE program. And we talk about kids leaving our district. The truth of the matter is there are all these, we're not the only family with an advanced child. They don't stay here. My wife was online today looking at a high school. Stanford has a high school. And my wife was online looking at the stuff at Stanford for my daughter because we don't offer jack for gifted kids here. And they have to wait until high school before they could get anything. But by then, what about all the time before that when they could have been advances and flourishing? We're not offering them what they need. Those are my comments. I'm sorry I had to talk fast, so it may have sounded excited, but I was trying to get it in 2 minutes.
All right, thank you. Trustee Record, then I know Trustee Smith-Fall.
Thank you. This is extremely interesting topic. I think there's enough meat here that it could stand on its own as a discussion item and not be collapsed into the superintendent's report. So I hope in the future, some of these meatier things will stand alone because it is super interesting and really important. So thank you for bringing this up. Next is, so I'm going to encourage some really crisp, direct, lovely, wonderful, targeted communication around not only what's offered in schools, because principals are right, we have excellent programming, but also if you're denied 1 year, when is your next opportunity to take it is really important because there will be immense and unfavorable feedback if that does not is not communicated well. Next is on balancing classes. I really do hope that this helps to place students in the beginning of the year and to stop the changing and the turmoil. After that, I really hope there is good student and principal collaboration on this and that this is truly ground up and not top down. I agree very much with Trustee Phillips around, well, he didn't exactly say what I wanted to say, but you have to preserve choice and you have to put in some things that not everybody takes. You have to have some more interesting things and more challenging things. That's how you build an assortment in general. So I'm hoping you'll do that. And then not hoping, you have to. And then also, I don't want to really speak out of turn, but I'm pretty sure that Equal Opportunity Schools is in our LCAP. And I'm looking at it now. I haven't had enough time, but if something is in the LCAP, I do expect that we are going to act on it with fidelity and offer it. Thank you very much.
All right, thank you. Trustee Smith-Fall.
Thank you for the presentation. I think that we have to stop talking about equity if we're not going to talk about transportation. Dr. Hurst, we have to have a conversation to completion about transportation in this district. We cannot keep saying that we are an open enroll, open transfer district. You can go wherever you want, but you have to make sure that you transport yourself there because that the two talking out of both sides of our mouth, right? We can't say we offer everything to everyone only if you are able to fit into this category. Also urge district staff, go to these AP classes, do a count. How many boys do you see in the class? How many Black boys do you see in the class? How many brown boys do you see in these AP classes? How many brown and Black girls do you see in these AP classes? And then tell me we don't have a problem. Houston, we have a problem. We are not opening up these classes to where people understand that they have the right to be there and we're not supporting them once they're in there. Dr. Hurst, we have to do better in understanding that the most marginalized are also the most capable. And if we give them the resources and the supports that they deserve, then they will be able to fill those classrooms like everybody else. We also need to look at, it shouldn't be a zip code issue. It shouldn't be if you're in area 5 and you're in area 1, you get these opportunities of AP physics, AP chemistry, AP psychology, AP different languages. That's not fair. That's not equitable in our district. If you live in your neighborhood, you should be able to go to your neighborhood high school and have the same classes offered to you. So we have to look at how we make that equity really exist in our district. And it means paying teachers, highly qualified educators, bringing them into our district who are able and capable of teaching these classes that we believe that our students should have. It all goes hand in hand. And we really need to work in totality with everyone, not just our administrators, not just district staff, but with our teachers and say, how can I get you back in school to where you're able to teach an AP class? Because I really want to offer an AP class at this school. And I know that you're the teacher that can be able to do it. We have to work in a real visionary aspect. And Dr. Hurst, this is where I'm looking for the moonshot. This is where I'm looking for you to come to the board with the out of the box. And President Christian, one more second. I'm looking for you, Dr. Hurst, to come with the out of the box moonshot thinking that will give benefit to all of our students. I am now complete.
All right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you. I'll be very quick. I appreciate the presentation from everyone. I just want to share the excitement about what's happening at our secondary sites and digging deeper on the master scheduling. I really want us to also concentrate on the marketing and the communication to community, because we do offer amazing things. Every time I visit a high school or a secondary site, I am so impressed and shocked by what we offer, right? Whether it's the pathways at the ANSA or the internationals program at Richmond High School, or the CTE programs at Kennedy, right? Or the IB program at Pinole Valley. And every school is different, right? El Cerrito offers different things, right? The ethnic studies classes, women's studies classes at El Cerrito High School, right? Etc. I know I missed a lot of schools, but every single school is different. And I think that we have to put that on our website. We have to show what we're doing. In that way, we will encourage people to come. Because I think that a lot of people don't come to our school simply because they just don't know what we are offering, the opportunities we're offering their students. And even as a parent, they might not know what's being offered at their own child's school to encourage them to go a certain path. So I just want to thank staff, and I know that Ms. Sanders has her work cut out for her, but I would really encourage us to do that, and maybe schools can support in the creation of something like that. Thank you.
All right, thank you. And that complete the
Yes, I just want to take the opportunity to thank Ms. Summer Sigler and Dr. Huey. Thank you so much for the presentation. And thank you for our students, trustees as well for your presentation.
all right, thank you. And now we'll continue on with the agenda. We go to E, the action, action items. And the first one is appeal hearing. Oh, we did. Exemption. E. E1 was discussed in the closed session, and now we move to E2. Exemption to the separation services employment of retired teachers.
Turn it over to Dr. Greenwood.
Good evening, board. We are requesting an exemption for a retired teacher to come back and work and substitute teach.
Okay.
Sorry, Dr. Greenwood, can I have the language specifically for the motion? Is a motion to approve the exemption?
Yes, we're requesting an exemption waiver for a retired teacher to come back and work and substitute teach.
Thank you, Dr. Greenwood. President Christian, I'll move that we approve the exemption for retired teacher Janet Watkins.
All right.
Reckler will second.
It's been moved and it's been second. And any questions pertaining to this item? All right, then we move to any comments? And we go to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
all right, trustee Sapanya,
Sumpanya, yes.
all right, trustee Phillips,
Yeah.
all right. Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, oh, yes.
all right, trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
all right, trustee Smith Fall,
Smith Folds, yes.
all right, and myself a yes. All right. Motion is adopted. And now we move on to certification of board authorization, education code 44283.
Again, I come to the board asking for approval for variable term waivers to provide applicants additional time to finish their credential and ask us to be able to employ them during this period.
All right. Need a motion?
President Christian, I move that we approve the waivers.
All right.
Vote seconds.
It's been second. And are there any questions? Comments? Then we go to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
all right, trustee Sapanya,
Sumpanya, yes.
all right. Trustee Phillips.
Yeah.
Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, oh, yes.
trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
trustee Smith Fall,
Smith Folds, yes.
all right, and myself a yes. And the motion is adopted. All right. Now we're going to E5, amend the design. E4. Amend the design, the bill contract for Lake Elementary School campus.
Sorry, President Christian, it's approved resolution 2223/38 about our committing our fund balance.
Okay. You gonna. All
Go
right.
ahead, Dr. McIntyre.
Thank you, Dr. Hurst and Board President and board members. It's an honor to be here again this evening. Tonight, we're asking for the board to approve the commitment of funds in the fund balance equal to the amount that the district's bargaining team is currently placed on the bargaining table for all bargaining units. The idea is that by committing these funds, we ensure they can be used for no other purpose other than what we've committed to at the bargaining table. So the goal is not only to protect them, but to allow us to recognize them as a commitment in the fund balance in the first interim report that we'll be presenting next week. So we're asking for a commitment in the amount of $17,500,000 in the unassigned fund balance from the unassigned fund balance of the general fund for the 22-23 school year. And we would also like to commit the balance of Fund 17 for commitments for future declining enrollment and to fulfill the cash needs for the amount currently on the table in the out years.
Any questions? Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you, President Christian. Thank you, Dr. McIntyre. So just to clarify, the reason why we're doing this, because we haven't done it before, even going through negotiations, is for transparency, so the community sees it, and so that as you present the first interim next week, it's committed in that way. Is that correct?
That is correct. It also keeps us out from under it's currently not in effect, but there's SB, I want to say 851 or 751 from a few years back that says when the state reserve balance reaches a certain level, that districts shouldn't have a unallocated fund balance of over 10%. While that's not operative, it is best practice, and that in this action is consistent with what was written in that law.
Thank you. And Ms. Cleveland from the county has given us the green light to do this way. Is that correct?
She acknowledged it's best practice. Yes, sir.
Okay, thank you, Dr. McIntyre. Appreciate that. President Christian, I'm done.
All right, thank you. Trustee Phillips.
I'm really thinking about how to say this because we're in questions. And that's why you hear me pausing to try to collect my my thoughts. The agenda says quote, by commitment of $17,500,000 of the unassigned and appropriated 2022-23 general fund balance for salary and benefit increases already made through collective bargaining. Already made. But what I'm hearing from you is that this is not, is that correct? How is that correct? If you're saying that what I just read from the agenda, how is that correct? That it's for salary, benefits, and increases already made, if you're telling us it's for what you're bargaining now? That hasn't been approved by the board.
Thank you, Trustee Phillips. That this is a great question and a really necessary part of the conversation. And thank you for highlighting this question. In fact, in collective bargaining, when the district puts an offer on the table that it has a value, we cannot go backwards. So the board has provided the district's bargaining team authority to go up to a certain amount and put offers on the table with each bargaining unit, which has taken place. That represents the financial floor for what we can eventually settle with labor around. And so that floor, that $17.5 million number represents the floor of what is currently on the table for all bargaining units. And so while the board has not ratified an agreement with all of the bargaining units, it represents a financial point we can't go backward from at this point. So what we're doing is we're saying, rather than having this, what looks like a massive amount of money available in the fund balance that could be used for anything, we're saying, no, we have made at least this minimum commitment at the bargaining table. We might settle at that. We might settle a little bit above it, but as of today, this is what is on the table from what the district has put on the table. And we can't go backwards from that in total dollars. And we want to make sure that people and department heads and a community knows that that dollar value is not sitting in the unassigned fund balance and available for other purposes, because it's not.
So the board does give direction about things in closed session, but you're not asking for direction. You're asking for us to take a vote. So my question now then is, how are we not effectively voting to ratify without that actually being on the agenda? Does my question make sense?
Yes, sir. And I'm sorry if I'm not being clear or if I'm being a bit obtuse in my response. That's not my intention. What the board is being asked to do tonight is commit those funds so they can't be available for any other purpose. At some point in the future, when we've settled with each bargaining unit, a contract will come to you for ratification with a dollar value tied to it. But if I were to take all five bargaining units and what's currently been offered by the district through board approval, and assign a dollar value, if we're to split it up among the 5 units, this is the total dollar value of what the district bargaining team has been allowed to and has put on the bargaining table for each of the units collectively. So the board still has to ratify a contract when we come to a final agreement. We're just making sure the dollar value of what's out on the table cannot be, there's no perception that it's available for other uses.
The amount that's listed in here, is that amount above what you expect the district to actually receive? From the COLA increases. And what I mean by that, I'm very specific when I say receive. I understand the state says we are going to get X, but everybody in education is saying or talking about us not actually receiving the full COLA that they're talking about. So my question to you is this number above what we expect to actually receive, not what's there on paper, but we expect to actually receive from the COLA, the cost of living adjustment?
No.
What number do we expect to actually receive from the cost of living adjustment?
If you give me a second to pull out the first interim report, I can give you the exact number.
And again, I'm talking about what you actually expect, not what they're saying, but what you actually expect.
So when we look at the local control funding formula from what we received for the LCFF funding last year, this is the funding that we fund the majority of all of our general ed program with and many, many other programs. So this is the largest amount of our funding source. We have other restricted funding sources, but this is our largest unrestricted funding source, the local control funding formula. Last year, we received $294.4 million. And this year we're projecting to receive $331.2 million. So we see the growth as being $36.8 million, roughly 12.5% effective COLA.
Okay, thank you.
Yes, sir.
All right. Trustee Redcliffe.
Thank you. Will you please explain to the general public what Fund 17 is?
Absolutely. Fund 17 is the capital reserve fund that is effectively acts like it is the district's rainy day fund. It's intended, or the funds were set aside in prior years. We're not adding to them in our current plan, but the funds were set aside in prior years with the intention of it being available in the event of an economic calamity. And I was very specific in the words I chose there because we are spending last year and this year's money on last year and this year's students. We are not adding to those funds. Okay, so that's one that's important too. The idea of having a rainy day fund for economic calamity like the last economic recession that came on us very, very quickly is to allow the governing board of education time to make thoughtful decisions on how they're going to scale programs to recognize the current economic reality when the economy softens. Without it, the board is forced to make very kind of knee-jerk reactions to maintain solvency. But this board and prior board members as well have been very astute in putting aside a healthy amount. When I say healthy amount, we don't have like a 30% reserve like some districts do. This is in itself is just at 10%.
And why is it in this resolution? Why is it in this calculation?
Because the district continues to experience declining enrollment. And we're funded on the higher of the current or prior year enrollment. And in fact, this year there's a new way to calculate our average daily attendance from which we're funded. But nonetheless, it's declining year to year. And so in order to provide a measure of breadth between the declining enrollment and our staffing, which is harder to step down without taking extraordinary measures, which we've had conversations around things that we don't want to talk about, like reductions in force, and we're not talking about here. But in prior years, that's where the value of having that padding really makes the district less susceptible to the negatives of having a smaller fund balance from which to buy time to make decisions.
Finally, what happens? You go through impasse, mediation, fact finding, you get a bill. You need to pay X amount more. What happens to this resolution with any additional dollars that you may need to commit through negotiation and bargaining?
I would have to come to the board and ask for a change in the commitment to reflect the new obligation.
Okay, thank you. That's all I have.
All right. Trustee Smith, I thought I saw your hand.
President Christian, no, you didn't see my hand. We talked all about this in closed session, so I'm caught up.
Okay. Clerk Gisela Soy.
Sorry, President Christian, I don't have questions. I was gonna make a motion, but then I saw Trustee Phillips' hand.
Trustee Phillips.
Can I think I asked the question. So when we get to discussion, I'll just speak about it and maybe someone could pitch in and help me when we get there. So comment.
Clerk Gisela Soy.
Thank you, President Christian. I move that we approve resolution 2223/38, resolution of the governing board of West Contra Costa Unified School District to commit fund balance.
Reckler will second.
All right, it's been moved, it's been second. Comments? Two minutes for the comments.
President Christian. This might take longer than 2 minutes because I know I'm going to ask for some help because I'm working through something and I'm doing it in this space. So I would like to know, and I asked this question, but I would like to know so the COLA that the state is saying that we're going to get, I don't believe we're going to get it. Whatever the number is that we are going to get, and I don't think anybody knows the exact number, I think it is more than $17.5 million. And I would like to have a conservative, so we're safe, a conservative estimate of what we're actually going to get. And that's the number that I would like set aside. I know it's higher than 17.5, but I do not believe that it's the full amount. And the people that I'm hearing, like I was just down in San Diego for the California School Board Association, they don't believe the COLA is going to come through either, the people who are presenting down there. So I know there's this conversation and people want raises, and I get that. Me personally, I really do believe that the COLA belongs to the workers, but I also don't want us to give a raise based on something that is not going to materialize. So I would like a conservative estimate from staff in the county about what actually is going to come through. And that's what I would like to set aside, whether that's given out on the salary schedule or a combination of one time, something or just one time. I don't know how it's given out, but the number I know is higher than 17.5. That's what I would like us to set aside. And I need help. I need help from the staff because I don't know what that is and I don't know how to calculate it, but I know what I would like to see.
Point of
Ms.
order.
Cleveland had her
Sorry,
hand up.
point of order, President Christian. I think that we just have to be careful. We're heading into a conversation about what we think we should approve for negotiations, which is technically illegal in open session. So the staff is asking us to approve what has been already given to staff. I don't disagree that if we could, anyways, I'm about to say something that I probably shouldn't say in open session. I think that we just have to be really careful with this conversation because we're about to violate the Brown Act. So I just wanted to ask us to come back to maybe what the topic is and not what we want to offer, because we might all want to start talking about what we want to offer, and that's obviously not for open section. Thank you.
I mean, if I can say this, I agree that what we're doing right now, it's irregular, which is why I asked in the questions, right? And I'm going to speak to the chair, but which is why I asked in the questions, Mr. Chair, how are we not ratifying negotiations without it being on the agenda? But if we are going to do this, I want the number to be changed because I do think that the workers should get the COLA, but I want to make sure that whatever it is, it's a conservative number so we don't get
Point of order,
over something and then we don't have the money.
point of order.
He's out of time.
The person that, she's online, so,
Before, the point of order,
the point of order,
from trustee Smith Folds, let's answer that real quick.
hold on.
It has to come first.
Javetta Cleveland, wants to speak.
Hold on. No.
Yes, good evening.
I'm sorry, Ms. Cleveland. I don't mean to interrupt you. President Christian, just the point of order has to go first officially. Then we'll, of course, allow Ms. Cleveland to go.
Okay.
Ms. Cleveland, we're all interested in what you're about to say. I
Okay.
apologize. I just have to make sure that we're following the rules, which is what the parliamentarian was trying to say. I apologize.
Okay. Point of order, trustee Smith Folds, and then we have Ms. Cleveland go after.
Thank you so much, President Christian. My point of order is that we have to remain consistent. There was no clock put up. President Christian, there was no clock put up and there was no stopping of questions that went over 3 or 4. So I'm asking for us to be consistent because I was cut off when we were talking about our curriculum, our scheduling, and all the things that have to do with academics in the schools. And it's beginning to wear thin that we are not being consistent with our rules. I am absolutely and 100% complete. Thank you, Ms. Cleveland, for allowing me to jump in.
I'm sorry, trustee Smith Folds, the timer was on in the room, and I agree, we've gotten a little into the weeds. This is obviously a sensitive issue. It's when you talk about in closed session. I can see that you still have more questions, my suggestion would be, if you need it, we can move to go into closed session for 10 to 15 minutes so you can get these questions answered before you do a vote.
And Madam Parliamentarian, it's not on Zoom. So if it was in the room and it was still by just me doing a raw clock, it was 29 to 30 seconds over. If it was in the room, it needs to be on Zoom because it was on Zoom before. The clock needs to be consistent as well as all of our procedures and our policies. I'm complete.
So here's the thing. I'm okay. So the public can't see what just happened. The parliamentarian asked me if so it seems like I'm just talking. So I'm gonna say something just for context for the people who could hear it. The parliamentarian just asked me if I wanted to make a motion to go into closed session. So when you heard me start talking, it wasn't just me talking out of the blue. I was actually responding to the parliamentarian. It just looked like I was talking out of the blue because you couldn't hear the parliamentarian. I didn't put this on the agenda for open session. So if the board wants this, the board leadership wants this on the agenda, and they did, I'm fine with speaking about it in public. But like I said earlier, there are some things that I need to logically work through. But it's up to them if they want to work through it in public or back there. I basically said where I am coming from already.
Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy was correct when you had concerns about mentioning things that are private negotiations and some of those numbers in a public meeting. We really want to avoid that. If you feel we are not going to have any more of that, then we should continue in public. If not, I would highly recommend that the chair puts us back into closed session with, of course, as your parliamentarian, a time limit of say 10 to 15 minutes for you to get back in.
Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy.
Thank you. So we do have this on the agenda for next week's closed session again. So I would suggest that we continue this conversation in closed session because the conversation that we were heading into is different than I think what staff is intending to do with this resolution. So I think that in closed session next week, we'll definitely have a larger opportunity to do that and look at the numbers. That would be my suggestion because of time, but I'm okay if everybody else wants to go in closed session.
So you need to decide this. So do we want to hear from yeah.
And will that presenter?
Can we let her?
Well, but the question would be, is the presenter the person that is waiting to speak? Will they be revealing anything from closed session or speaking of anything that should be in closed session? Okay, thank you.
All right, let's hear from Javetta.
Yes, good evening. I would like to address one of the questions from Trustee Phillips, which was regarding the COLA. The COLA for the 22-23 school year that was proposed in the state budget is the state budget assumption, and that will not be reduced. I think what you may have heard at the conference related to the state budget is about the 22-23-24 COLA, which is proposed that may not, and that's not the COLA we're speaking of, and that's not a part of the reserve that we're setting aside.
Can I ask Ms. Cleveland? Okay. So we're all using the same definition. So like when you hear me saying COLA, I don't mean just for this year. Because if we're talking about salaries, like that's something that's ongoing. So what I'm really asking is like, what do we actually expect to receive over time? Not just like this year, we got 100% and we know what that is. And then next year it's 75. I'm asking you to a certain extent for you to read the tea leaves, right? And say over time, this is what we actually expect to get. We know that this year's in the bank, but over time, this is what we expect to get. So if we try to do something ongoing like salaries, over time, we'll be able to pay for it based on the projections of what we're going to get from the COLA over time. That's what
That's
I'm
correct.
trying to
The
figure out.
cost of living adjustment that is in the state budget for 22-23 is an ongoing cost of living adjustment.
So what you're saying is that number,
Yes,
not ever,
the number for 22-23, it's a little over 12% with the augmentation. Is that correct, Dr. McIntyre?
That is correct.
That is an ongoing, when that goes into the budget, it just goes into the budget as an ongoing cost of living adjustment.
and there's not a belief that that's going to be reduced.
I stay in tune with what's going on with the state budget. No,
You said no?
no.
Okay. Thank you. I don't think we do. They're saying that the number's not going to be reduced. So the number that we know is not going to be reduced, that's the number that I want set aside. That's the number that I want in the resolution. And it's more
The
than
amount-
17.5.
The amount that Dr. McIntyre is setting aside is the amount that was already placed on the table that the board gave direction for, not the total amount of the cost of living adjustment.
We can go in closed
Yeah, we
session,
gotta-
that's fine. But if you want,
Yeah, we're getting too close.
Point of order.
So we need, if we're gonna do this.
No, we don't need a motion if there are no objections. Announce, we are going into closed session for 10 minutes.
President Christian, I have an
First of all,
objection.
I don't know if you can go into closed session. It is not agendized. And second of all, you'd need a motion to get into closed session.
If there are no objections.
And I apologize, I object. Because that's not what the intent of this is. The intent is to approve what has been already provided as offers, right? We will have further conversations if we want to offer more or less or whatever in closed session next week, but this is purely to approve what has been already approved. So it's different. So I would object for us to go to closed session. And I think that we should move on.
Yeah.
so I would like to make a second motion. And just so I hear it correctly, the number was 30, because this is what I'm going to put in the motion. The number was 38 what?
The number in the motion is $17,500,000 from the unassigned balance in the general fund and the balance of Fund 17.
No, what I'm asking is, I know the number in the resolution is 17.5. The number, the COLA number that we know is going to be ongoing and not reduced, what number is that? That's 38 what? I thought I heard 38. What's the number?
36.8 million.
So my motion is that we adopt the resolution and substitute the number 36.8 million for 17.5 million. That is my motion.
If I may, there's not enough in the unassigned fund balance for that.
So we need to vote on first the amendment, which would be the striking of 17.5 and then inserting 36.8.
Okay. So are there,
President Christian, I just heard Mr. McIntyre say, he didn't get on the microphone. He said that there's not enough unassigned balance to do that. If I may ask, what is the number of unassigned balance that we actually have to get us close? I mean, I'm still gonna later say the 36.8, but what is the amount of unassigned balance that we have total? If it's not 36.8, and I'll move that number.
President Christian, can I request a recess, please?
yeah,
I'll make a motion to take a 5-minute recess.
Reckler second.
all right. We'll go in. We're going to 5-minute recess and we'll come back.
You need to give them the time.
Oh,
Hold on for a second. It takes precedence.
it's 9:30.
So can I just say something really quick? Depending on what the purpose of the recess is, perhaps we should just go back into closed session, because if we take a recess and then all begin to meet, we're violating the law.
Sorry, Trustee Phillips, the recess is for Dr. Hurst, President Christian, and me to discuss what to do next. That's my intent.
Okay, if that's what you.
All right, so we'll go into 5 minutes.
Yeah, we have to give it. So come back. That would be 9.
9:38. So we'll be in recess 9:38, 5 minutes. But we're gonna go ahead, Clerk Gonzalez.
Thank you, President Christian. I'll move that we go into closed session for 15 minutes.
All right. Is there a
Smith
second?
Folds seconds. Sorry, I was on mute. Smith Folds seconds.
Okay. And now we go to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
Trustee Sapanya,
Sumpani abstain.
Trustee Phillips,
Hey,
Trustee Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, oh yes.
All right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, no.
Trustee Smith Fall.
Smith Folds, yes.
All right. And myself, yes. Okay, we will be going into closed session for 9:55.
You can make that an even 10 o'clock if you.
10, we'll make it 10 o'clock. 10 o'clock. We'll be back. Sorry about the inconvenience.
President Christian, I have a point of order before we go.
Okay, go ahead.
If we're making it 10 o'clock, do we have to vote to extend the meeting now? So we'll be able to get in board comments?
Yeah, we can do it now.
I motion to extend the meeting just to ensure that we get in board comments to 10:45.
second.
Sorry, Trustee Smith Folds, can I make an amendment that we allow action item E5 to be heard and voted on.
So trustee Gonzalez Hoy, do you think we need to extend past 10:45 to ensure that we hear action item E and item G on the agenda?
I think if we're brief, it should be okay.
Okay, of course. So I'll accept your friendly amendment to
Thank you.
include action item E5.
All right.
So the motion is to extend the meeting time till 10:45 and hear E5 and G.
That is correct.
Thank you, ma'am.
Okay, so we need to go to the vote. We'll vote on that. Is there a second?
Trustee Phillips seconded it.
All right, it's been moved, second, and now we go to the vote. Trustee Miles,
Miles, yay.
trustee Sapanya,
Campania, yes.
all right. Trustee Phillips,
Yes.
all right. Trustee, Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, yes.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, no.
all right. Trustee Smith Fall,
Smith Folds, yes.
all right, and myself a yes. Okay, now we're going into closed session. We'll be back at 10 o'clock. All right, ladies and gentlemen, we just came back from closed session and sorry for the inconvenience. And so right now we're on a motion to strike 17.5 and insert 36.8. Is there a second? What is it about?
We had a second.
Oh, okay, so is there,
We didn't have someone say second, but we went into discussion on it, so it's an automatic.
okay. We start off with student trustees. Student trustee Miles,
Miles abstain.
all right, trustee Sapanya,
Campania, abstain.
okay. Trustee Phillips,
Yes.
Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez, no.
all right, trustee Reckler,
Reckler, no.
trustee Smith Fall,
Smith Folds, no.
all right, and myself a no. Motion fails. Now we're back to the original motion for 17.5. All right, we go to the vote. Student trustee, trustee Miles,
Okay.
Moving straight.
Miles abstain.
Point of order.
what's your point of order?
Who made the original motion? And seconded it?
Gonzalez Hoy on the 17.5. Gonzalez Hoy was the motion and I was the second.
I would like a brief comment for discussion before the vote begins.
All right, trustee Phillip would like to make a comment before the vote begins. So trustee Phillips.
I will be voting no on this. I just want to explain why. I do believe that the COLA belongs to the workers. And since it's been confirmed that the 36.8 is ongoing, I think it's appropriate that that's what we set aside. And because we're not doing that, I will be voting no. I do agree with the Fund 17 balance being set aside though. But because these two things are put together in one resolution, I will be voting no. Thank you.
All right. Any other comments? Now we go to the vote. Trustee Miles.
Miles abstain.
All right, trustee Sapanya.
Hanya, yes.
All right, trustee Phillips.
No.
All right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Gonzalez, yes.
All right. Trustee Reckler.
Reckler, yes.
All right. Trustee Smith Fall.
Because this is the floor and not the ceiling, Smith Folds, yes.
All right. And myself, yes. Motion carries. All right. So now we'll go to finish up what's left on the agenda. I believe we went to E5, right?
We'll turn over to Mr. Lewis.
Yes, let me go ahead and share my screen. You can allow me access. Try that again. So tonight we're asking the board to consider approving cost mitigation measures to cover a $7.5 million variance between the original construction cost proposal and the bids received on October 2022, and increase Alton construction contract by $2.5 million. And so I would like to just give an update on the Lake project. So again, for those that may not be aware, the Lake project is a rebuild project with a campus and it is a phased project. The current project budget is $65.6 million, and we have a scheduled completion winter 2024-25 with 2 phases in this project. I'd just like to point out that we've been talking over the last several weeks about the construction costs and how they've impacted us. And over the last 20 years, the building index has been averaging about 3.6% annual increase. And over the last 2 years, we've seen the building index increase 13.3% year over year. This is 10% over the average, which is something we kind of prepared for when we originally went out for contract for the Lake project. We've also seen a materials escalation of about 36% for select materials on the project. In such areas as electrical, concrete, lumber has come up and down, site utilities, which equates to about let me catch up with my slides. About $2.7 million over what we originally anticipated for this project. Through the use of cost mitigation and value engineering, we were able to recoup $3.5 million. $2.5 million of that was through value engineering, maintaining the same systems and warranties. And these options were actually available to our contractor as we have a performance-based specification. So the original specification were on the district desired materials, but these were options that were given to us that were acceptable within the contract, and it gave us a cost savings of $2.5 million. We're also able to save another $600,000 by modifying our waterproofing system without affecting our warranty on the building, as well as modifying our footings for our fencing details.
We're also able to recoup another $397,000 by deleting the covered walkways between the buildings without it. And all these reductions we made do not affect the classroom or the square footage of the campus. So the recommendation is we amend the contract to incorporate the DSA approved set of documents. We incorporate the value engineering scope modifications to create a cost savings of $3.5 million. We add an additional $503,000 by adding teaching walls and marker boards and increasing the filtration on the building to MERV 14s. Part of this, we actually are pulling away from our furniture and equipment budget. So we originally had anticipated buying furniture for the classrooms, for the storage for the teachers and or extra storage. And this time we're actually going to be able to build it into the casework. So the cost savings is neutral that we're adding. We're going to extend the construction project by 140 days. And this has to do with, we added the TK building and the kindergarten building additions, which is just going to extend our contract out. We're going to reduce and reallocate the contingencies. The project contingency will increase by $1 million, which is coming from the contractor side, and $1.2 million for the district's contingency, as well as we're asking to increase the overall contract to Alton Construction by $2.5 million. And this will come from the project budget. It will not come from any other funds. And that's my presentation, and I'll take any questions.
Are there any questions? Trustee Phillips?
The agenda says staff recommends various cost mitigation strategies, including reducing the scope and value of engineering materials and systems. In your presentation, I heard you mention removing covered walkways. What are the other cost mitigation strategies?
So we removed some of the cord reels that are originally designed in the classrooms. We've taken those out. They are provisioned to put electric reels back in. The structures will be there, but we're removing that from the scope of work. We're reducing the number of exterior speakers that was originally designed into the building for the intercom PA system, as well as the number of wireless access points. And all these items were reviewed both with our technology officer to make sure that we were still meeting the coverage that was needed for the campus. We were reducing the planting that was originally incorporated in the project. So this project has detention basin areas, and it had a lot of different plant going in. And so we've changed from sod to seeded grass and removed some of the other ornamental plants that were originally incorporated into the project. All that will not affect the overall appearance or operation of the school. And we remove the covered walkways in between the classrooms down what we call the spine of the building. And this actually opens up for more light. And they still have coverage, but it does reduce some of the walkways.
Has staff gone to the community and said, has the community been notified or had an opportunity to discuss these reductions? Do they know anything about it?
We have not went to the community. We have reviewed these items with the principal.
I have no further questions. I just have a couple of comments.
All right, thank you. Any other questions on the board? Clerk is Latoya.
Thank you, President Christian. Mr. Freeze, thank you for the presentation. One question I forgot to ask you in our one-on-one was the 2.5 increase that's coming from what I'm going to call contingency fund from the project. Correct me if I'm just completely butchering that, but how much is left after if we approve this tonight?
So the overall project budget is $65.6 million. So what we're asking to do is just increase the construction portion of the budget. I don't have that number with me tonight. I can certainly get it to you, but we do have enough in the project budget to take care of our soft costs as well as our FF&E materials now that we understand our total construction cost.
Thank you. And my second question is maybe more of a, universal question, but why did we not just do these cost saving mitigation strategies from the very beginning to save money? Maybe it's more because, well, I won't answer for you. I'll let you.
Well, I would say some of these things come out of the bids, right? So we receive, the contractor receives bids. Part of that is they, as a design build project, they also make requests to their subcontractors that bid in the project. Are there any cost saving measures or the things that may be readily available that are not available that we're seeing increased cost on, that we could actually benefit from those cost savings? An example would be the HVAC material. When we had carrier units designed for the rooftops, but the carriers were more expensive than the train, although they carry the same warranty and are readily available. So those are just some examples on how cost savings were realized during the bid process.
Thank you, Mr. Freeze. President Christian, that was my last question.
All right, thank you. Are there any other questions? Trustee Smith-Fall?
Mr. Freeze, when we go back and we talk to principals, do we also talk to staff? Because there's impacts, right? If you take away a walkway, a covered walkway, are kids able to get through by the hallways, or are they forced to have to go outside? Because we do have, not all the time, but we do have rains, right? We've had some last week, and those rains are heavy rains. And if you're having to walk outside, there's snowball impact that happens. So my question is, do we talk to just the principals about these changes, or do we take it back to the staff also and ask for, okay, what's the impact if we do this?
So I would have to defer that question really to my project team that has been doing the upfront lift on this. But I would say those conversations have happened directly with the principal, and I would say they're probably not including students for sure. And I can't speak to other staff in that meeting.
Thank you. That's my only question.
All right, thank you. Is there a motion? Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy?
Thank you, President Christian. I move that we approve the amendment to the design build contract for Lake Elementary School campus replacement project.
All right. It's been a
Reckler will second.
And it's been second. Any comments? Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy? Trustee.
Sorry,
Phillips?
President Christian, I was pointing at Trustee Phillips that he had his hand up.
Thank you very much. I will not be voting for this for a couple of reasons. One, there has been no community discussion. And two, I feel like this is inequitable. I feel like when we talk about schools in certain areas, we are constantly talking about reductions. And I'm specifically right now talking about our facilities. We had this conversation about Kennedy, which is in a low income area. We had a conversation about Richmond High, which is in a low income area. We had a conversation about Lake, and the conversations are about cutting the scopes of projects. But I don't know when we're going to be done with Pinole Valley High School. Schools that are not in low income areas, staff is consistently coming to us and asking to add to the funds. But in schools, I'm just going to be frank, in areas 2 and 3, the conversation is always about how do we cut or what do we cut from their facilities. And I do not believe that this is fair. I would like Lake to be treated the same way that these other schools are treated. And the way they are continuously treated is, oh, it's going to cost more. Board, will you give us more? So we can do what we originally said. But that's not how the recommendations come to us when there are schools. And when I mean our schools, I mean schools in 2 and 3. It's not right. And I will not be voting for this.
Any other comments? Trustee Clerk Gonzalez-Hoy?
Thank you, President Christian. I mean, I definitely understand where our colleagues are coming from on this, but the reality is that the cost of, like Mr. Freeze mentioned, the cost of building right now, it's so much larger than it used to be even just a year ago. And if we wait, potentially it could go higher. I think that we have been very clear that we wouldn't use Measure R funds for any other builds except for Kennedy and Richmond High and potentially Stage, but I mean, we have been clear, right? But we have to have lake rebuild. And if we don't approve it, this increase, then it just simply cannot get built to the extent that we want. So we have to do it. I mean, I definitely agree. They deserve the same school than other communities have gotten. And that goes to the extent of Kennedy and Richmond High deserve the same school as El Cerrito and De Anza and Pinole Valley High School. So, but the reality that we have in front of us today is that De Anza High School today would have cost 600 million more than it did at the time. So we just have to be realistic about the cost of facilities today and see how much we can stretch every dollar, because unfortunately right now we just simply cannot go for another bond. Anyways, I'm complete.
All right. Any other comments? Trustee Smith-Fall?
So Dr. Hurst, my comment is what have we done to try to mitigate this issue to where we can make sure that the students of Lake Elementary School have what they need to have a building that is not just functional, but is one that they deserve? What steps have we taken? Have we looked at funding from another source? Have we looked at other ways that we can do this besides just reducing the quality of the school that they get? Because I think that we all can agree that reducing the quality of schools that children get is at its face inequitable, right? Because it's literally should not be zip code to zip code to zip code about the facilities. Now, there's also the reality of this is the money that we have, but we have this amount of money, but I'm looking for what else have we done to get more money, to get able to make sure that these kids have a covered walkway, to make sure that these kids have plants that they deserve, green spaces that they deserve. I want to know when we are bringing presentations to the board, this is what we have done. We have done all of these things, and now this is where we are. We have done our due diligence. We can show you and walk you step by step through it. The public deserves to know that. The board deserves to know that before we cast votes that have implications on whether a school gets built at all or not. We deserve to be able to look at it and say, everybody did their due diligence. I'm not saying you did or you didn't, because I don't know. I don't see it in front of me. So I want to say that we looked at grants and we were denied. We looked at this and we were denied. We did this and this is, we went back to the staff. We went back to the community. We went back to the principal, and they all agreed that they want this building built. And if we got to cut some stuff, they're okay with it for now. Or here's our plan. If we get more money, we're going to put it towards here. I don't see any of that. And because I don't see any of that, it makes it really hard for me to say, go ahead and just do what you're doing. I would like to see it so I will be able to be informed about what we're voting on when it comes to kids. I'm complete.
All right, thank you. Any other questions? Comments?
I would just like to add, within the contract tonight that we're asking you to increase, there is a table, Exhibit A, which actually details out the scope of work for the adds and deducts. I would say to the question about quality, we are not taking away any of the quality of the building, both from the interior, the exterior of the structure. If the desire of the board were to add back the covered canopies in between the buildings, that cost is $266,000 is detailed here. That could be added back. It would just be an increase. Instead of 2.5, it would be 2.76 to that contract. We do have it in project contingency, but we're also being mindful of the overall budget and trying to do the best job we could to bring this back to the board. What we thought was a reasonable reduction in negotiation and how we look at materials and look at the project as a whole and the best value for the Lake community.
So Mr. Freeze, when you're presenting, can we pull that up so we can see it? Dr. Hurst, you see what I mean? So we can see it as part of the presentation. So then we can have a discussion. And if we've got to add a motion or we have to add another part of the discussion, then we're able to visually look at that and the community's able to visually look at that. I think that that would be really, really a standard that we need to set. We need to not talk the presentation only, but we need to see the presentation so we can talk through it. Thank you.
All right, just go to a vote. And we start out with our student trustee, trustee Miles.
Point of order, President Christian.
Go ahead.
I would like to put another motion on the floor.
Uh-huh.
I would like to motion that this presentation comes back to the board with an Dr. Hurst, a slide presentation at the next board meeting. So we don't put behind the construction too much, but we actually have a conversation. And with that, it may give the staff time to go and have these conversations with the community, or at least show the community what they're doing. That's my motion, that we bring it back to the next board meeting with a visual slide presentation and the staff doing the best they can to go back to the community for a conversation.
Trustee Smith Foltz, could you clarify a little bit? Are you asking to postpone the current motion until the next meeting with the presentation coming back?
Yes.
Thank you.
Point of order, there is a presentation attached to the item.
One that we bring up for us to look at, Trustee Reckler, like we do the other presentation, slides show up, Mr. Freeze is walking through it slide by slide. We have the questions that we'll be able to see. The presentation is up for the public to see and we walk through the slides. That's what I'm asking for.
All right, we have a motion. Is there a second to this motion? Okay. Clerk Gonzalez, Hoy.
Thank you, President Christian. I would like to, I think it's already been, doesn't need a second because we discussed it, right? So I would like to do an amendment to that motion, which is that we send it back to agenda setting for when it would come back. And the reason why is because we have a full agenda next Wednesday. And I think that we're gonna go over time next Wednesday, so we add another item. And I think we're gonna go way longer next week. So we need a little flexibility. Or we need to, if we vote on this, then we all need to understand that we'll be here late next Wednesday for sure.
Clerk Gonzalez Hoy, I accept that friendly amendment that it goes back to agenda setting.
I would just like to add that if we don't approve the contract tonight or the next board meeting, this would delay the project. We have the bid in, the contractor is waiting to start digging foundations. It's already the middle of December. Anytime we delay any longer will just get us in deeper into the wet weather and cause more delays in the project. So it is a priority of trying to get this to move forward.
Then President Christian, I take back my motion and we'll just have to deal with it.
Okay. So we vote no, what we just put to the floor.
So the motion to send this to agenda has been withdrawn. The motion from trustee Smith Foltz then still stands, which is to postpone this to the next meeting, which would be December 14th. So that would be the motion that we'd be voting on right now, Mr. Chair.
December the 14th. So we already second. All right. It already had a second. Okay, so we go to the vote. Trustee Miles.
Miles, yeah.
All right, trustee Sapanya.
Vipanya, yes.
Right, trustee Phillips.
I actually wanted to make a second motion. Is that inappropriate right now? Because the vote has already begun.
If you weren't recognized, we're sorry, if we misrecognize them, then we should allow them to think another.
I was trying, yes.
So recognize it.
Okay, so what's the motion?
The motion is that we approve the staff recommendation minus the reductions at the school. No, I'm making a different motion.
Okay, another motion has been brought to the floor, so we need a second. With no second, the motion fails. Back to the first. Motion. And
It's my turn now.
We should start over with that vote. Because we got it.
okay, so we're going back for this clarity on the vote. So we'll start off with our student trustees again. Trustee Miles,
Can you clarify what exactly I'm voting on? Okay, Miles, yay.
trustee Sapanya,
Campagna, yes.
right? Trustee Phillips,
No, because I disagree with the reductions.
all right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez Hoy abstain.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
Reckler, yes.
all right. Trustee Smith Fall,
Yes, for it to come back on the next agenda with options.
and I'll abstain. Yeah. Motion fails. And the motion failed and they get minimum of 3 votes, 3 affirmative votes.
So we are.
President Christian, I did make a original motion to move forward with the approving what's in front of us.
Okay. So to go, we're gonna vote on E5. Start off with our student trustees. Trustee Miles,
Miles abstain.
all right. Trustee Sapanya,
Campagna abstain.
all right. Trustee Phillips,
Yes, because it's clear to me that the board will not allow this project to go through without the reductions, and I want the school built.
all right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy,
Gonzalez Hoy, yes.
all right. Trustee Reckler,
And to clarify, it's as written, correct, this motion? Reckler, yes.
okay. Trustee Smith Fall,
Because I think we need more time to talk about it and we're just not giving it its due diligence. Trustee Smith Folds abstains.
and I'm a yes. The motion carries. And now we're going to item G, comments from the Board of Education and future agenda items. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Sorry, President Christian, just looking at the time, we have 10 minutes and it's 7 of us. So we have to reduce the 2 minutes to 1.5 minutes in order for everybody to be able to speak. Okay. Would you like me to start?
Yeah.
Okay, sure. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm waiting for the clock.
Oh, sorry. We'll start with the student trustees.
Sure.
Trustee Miles, you have any comments?
Hi, I just wanted to just give an update of what I've been up to. I know Miss Zalon Harris was a comment today, and I was actually attending the Black parent focus group meeting that was last Saturday, and it was a very interesting discussion. I got to meet a lot of students from different schools throughout the district at elementary and secondary levels as well. And I think it was very interesting to see how many problems are just common, like in common, specifically with Black students. We went over statistics about how Black students across the nation are suspended at like 3 times the rate than other students. And in the district alone, there were, I don't remember the exact number, but there were just a lot of suspensions. So I'm really glad that someone's bringing that to our attention.
All right, thank you, Trustee Miles. And then Trustee Sapanian.
Just going back on the student trustee report from earlier. I just wanted to say, if you can, please come to the impact education meeting. It'd be great to have more student, parent, community voice. And that's one of the big things about the All Student Congress, because we do want to start that up. It's great to get everyone's opinions on how the district runs, what benefits, what could be done better for the students in the district, and how parents can help make sure that happens, and how the community can engage. And we just love to see more people come in and come to the impact education meeting on December 15th over Zoom. And happy winter break. Well, for middle college only.
And thank you. Thank you. All right, and now we go to Trustee Phillips.
Thank you very much. Equity should not be a buzzword. It should not be political speak. It should not be thrown around. It should not be tossed around. It should not be used. It shouldn't have angles, because it's a discussion about people. Yes, the kids who are advanced in elementary school should have options that meet their needs. Yes, the middle school kids should be able to do algebra. And yes, the poor kids should be able to have covering so they're not walking in the rain at school. But we just voted against that because equity is a buzzword. And we need to stop that because it's not right. Those are my comments. Thank you for your time.
All right. Clerk Gonzalez Hoy.
Thank you, President Christian. First, I'd like to share that the handbook committee is almost done with our work. Trustee Reckler, Dr. Hurst and I have been working for months on the handbook. Hopefully January, we're gonna be able to bring it back to the board with a community session coming up in the next few weeks. I want to thank President Christian for his service the last year. I think that this is his last meeting as board president. So I just want to thank you, President Christian. We've had a good run this year together. And I want to thank everybody for letting me be clerk this year. It has been a very great learning experience for me. and attending all of our agenda settings as well. I want to thank all of our staff and students for everything that's going on. Negotiations, I know they're tough. I want to thank everybody for what we're doing there. And then I'd welcome everybody next Wednesday. Trustee Reckler and I are getting sworn in again for 4 more years. You're welcome to join us. And we're going to do some celebration of our students as well. So thank you so much.
Trustee Reckler.
Thank you so much. So first, thank you for honoring National Special Education Day. I really appreciate that. And thank you for remembering and honoring our students and our staff and the people who work with our special ed students. I was really glad to see that. So thank you. Congratulations to Gaucho and Spartan football. Next week, there's going to be something big, right? So I'll save the comments, but congratulations to everybody, school, admin, athletic directors, players, community who supported them. It was terrific. I also want to mention on the handbook, I have some deliverables. They'll be done tomorrow. So I'm sorry I needed to step away from that project to catch up with my life. I went to the meet and greet for the new principal at Washington on Sunday, which was great. Bienvenidos a nuestra familia. Principal chat at Madera on reluctant readers. Great LCAP meeting last night. And there was a meeting about West County Mandarin School. What's going to happen there that I went to. I don't know when that was. It's probably yesterday. Feels like so long ago. And then finally, there is a dual language immersion meeting tomorrow via Zoom, 4 to 5:30. I cannot remember where I got the Zoom link from, but check around. It's there. Thank you. Good night.
Trustee Smith Fall.
Devalued feels horrible. Dishonored feels unrecoverable. Overlooked, neglected, and rejected and tied up feels unacceptable. This is how people feel. We have a lot and we ask a lot of people. We ask too much of the very people who we need to take care of the most. I speak on behalf of the teachers, staff, admin, student, and parents. By force or by choice, there's going to be a reckoning. And it's not okay the way we are treating everyone that we encounter. We owe every person in WCCUSD better. We owe them the opportunity to be their best and highest self. We owe them the respect and the support, and the responsibility is on us as a board to make sure that we are doing what we were elected to do. You're right, we do a lot of box checking and a lot of buzzwords. Put your vote where your mouth is and where your value is. We have to do better. We owe it to the very people that we entrust our children with every single day. Living wage. I'm complete.
All right, thank you. And then I'll close out. Congratulations, to both our teams. EC El Cerrito and Pinole Valley, of their teams did a wonderful job, and we'll be recognizing them next week. And I just want to say, it's been a challenging year, and it's hard sometimes, but you got to keep moving even through difficulties and through the challenges. So, and we're about to go into the holiday season, and I like to eat. So, it's just so much to be thankful for, and appreciate everybody, staff and everybody in the district, our students. And you guys have a good evening. We are adjourned. 10:45.